Alright guys, welcome to the first lesson of agency. I don't even know how to call that series. Basically, I'm going to share a whole bunch of knowledge of how to start an agency, and I think it's going to be kind of like a free course on YouTube consisting of different episodes or series for different avenues of things that you need to do in the agency. And there will be modules on sales and marketing, there will be modules on fulfillment, on the operations. Today I kind of want to dive into channel specific module which will relate to Facebook ads and just give a quick overview of one of my top performing account structures that I've been using for the last 2 years plus, and I still use to this day even in the Post-Andromeda environment. It actually performs even better than it used to perform because it's kind of like a chat scaling strategy, we're gonna call it, which not everybody likes. Some people like to be very structured, and it is a structured approach here as well. But it's very simple once you understand how it works. It's kind of like a recruiting flywheel, so I wanted to cover that in today's video and then record a lot more episodes talking about other things related to meta ads / Facebook ads, different approaches for testing things, for launching other campaigns, audiences and stuff like that in the future, creative testing included. Today's episode will be focused just on the top performing account structure that is very simple yet proven to work, where you only need to focus on the inputs, not necessarily on controlling the account structure itself. You need to focus just on making sure you provide the best possible creatives for testing, as well as optimized landing page for connected customer journeys, so your results were successful. The account structure by itself doesn't result in stronger or worse performance when you just look at it in a standalone environment, because people, when they see your ad, users on social media, whether it be Facebook, Instagram, any other channel, they can't see your account structure, because that's the back end of how you're setting up the campaign. All they can see is creative and copy, which in my view, creative takes up 95% of performance, and because of taking up majority of the real estate or space when people get to see the ad itself, creative is just way larger than the copy that accompanies that creative, and then the landing page to which we send the traffic. So we're not gonna look at creatives or landing pages today. We're just gonna talk about the account structure, but those two things specifically, both landing pages and creatives, we will come back and talk about both of them in more depth in the future videos. If you do like this format, please let me know in the comments. Put that like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future episodes. We're gonna release a whole framework of how we have scaled our agency from 0 to 200,000 plus per month in recurring revenue over the next couple of weeks and months, and it's basically gold. You guys can just follow this free information and rebuild the whole agency from your side if you're not a lazy individual and see similar success to us, or if you need help, we will be releasing mentorship and community in the coming months as well, which I think will be helpful to you if you get stuck and you just want to be surrounded by people who are like-minded individuals on the same mission. And if not, then it's all good. Just enjoy the free series of lessons. But let's get started. I'm just gonna pull up Figma and screen share my Figma document that I have created, just a little FigJam chart. I'm not gonna go into the ads manager today and show the account structure in the ads manager. Maybe in the future, when we get to looking at the audiences and stuff, I'm going to do this, but today it's just a mind map that I have created in Figma for the simplicity of the explanation and keeping the video shorter rather than longer. All right, guys, on the screen right now, you should be able to see the little structure that I have created in Figma, and please forgive my handwriting. I know it's absolutely terrible. I'm left-handed and it looks just disgusting. I know, I'm sorry, but please bear with me. I will talk through the things that I have written down. There's only a few words. Majority of the text, the most important stuff that relates to what we're talking about today will be in the printed text in the boxes, and then my handwritten notes are just to support the explanation. That's all it is. Anyways, let's get started. So when you create a Facebook account, the two main account structures, the two main campaigns, sorry, that I use in our main account structure are ABO testing campaign and CBO scaling campaign. We like to test all of our ads, creatives is what we are primarily testing, not just the ad copy, but the actual ad creatives. We like to test them in the ABO testing environment, where every single ad gets its own dedicated ad set with its dedicated budget, and where all other variables are kept constant other than the creative itself, unless we are testing the landing pages, which is a whole other story. We will get to that in the future lessons. Let's not jump ahead here. If Everything is constant except for the creative, say the primary text, all of the different ad copy variations and headlines are the same, landing page is the same, audience targeting is the same, age targeting is the same, demographic targeting is the same, everything is the same, location targeting is the same, gender, yada yada yada. Creative is the only thing we like to test when it comes to creative testing in its own dedicated campaign. So we use ABO testing environment for that. We would create, and let's actually switch here. You can see our ABO testing campaign, the way it's structured is we like to put each individual new ad creative that we test in its own dedicated ad set, like I said here, and run them alongside each other at roughly $5 to $10 per day in budget up until the CPA, target cost per purchase point, or maybe slightly past that, say 1.5x the target CPA, target cost per purchase. And then if no conversions occur, we kill the losing ads. If there are any proven winners, which we will define by multiple purchases occurring within the target cost per purchase, not one, because one can just be a random conversion. We want to see at least 2 or 3 conversions to show, to see that proof or the trend that creative actually can perform and it wasn't just a one-off random conversion. And then scale those winning ads in its own dedicated campaign, which we'll talk about in a second. But again, when we run the tests, we create individual ad sets, all of which are identical when it comes to the setting or the setup of these ad sets. It's always going to include our, if you already know what audience is your top performing audience, somehow, maybe from the previous tests that you have already ran when you were using your original account structure, we use that audience in our creative testing, or we use, if you're just starting brand new, the highly relevant audience of people who, let's say if you're going after the audience of people who are interested in info products, you would target people who are interested in channels of popular info product gurus. You know, I'm not gonna go and name names now, but I'm sure you have heard of them and you know it yourself. So Meta has a really good tendency to create interest groups around the topic that people are interested in, even if there is no group on Facebook about it. Just because a lot of people are interested in a topic, Meta usually tends to create an interest tag or interest group about it. And then all of the people who have ever engaged with that type of content or who have liked that type of content on any of the Meta platforms, whether it be Facebook or Instagram, Reels, Stories, or Feed, or if they have signed up for any sort of website where you can sign up with Facebook, there is usually a function, another way how Facebook collects information about you and knows what types of things you're interested in. So you would want to go after that relevant interest tag and use that same targeting setting in every single ad set in the ABO testing campaign. So you can see here it's top performing relevant interest tag, top performing relevant interest tag, and then I have it repeating 3 more times to have a total of 5 duplicate ad sets, all of which have the same targeting settings, same location settings, same everything. Absolutely identical ad sets. And then what happens inside each ad set in this ABO testing campaign is we have an ad that usually will include same variables for everything except for the ad creative when it comes to creative testing. So we would include, as I've already said, same primary text, same ad copy, same headlines. We would include same landing page, no changes whatsoever in the Facebook page used or Instagram page used from which the ad is being served in the feeds and stories and reels placements. And the only difference across different ads in different duplicate ad sets in this ABO testing campaign is the creative itself, which would usually revolve around testing different creative angles, targeting specific buyer persona, which again, creative as a whole other story. We need to have a dedicated session just for this and talking about our approach to testing creatives. This is just for the overall account structure that has proven to work regardless of what type of ads you're running. So say one duplicate ad set would target or would include the ad creative number A or number 1. It would be a particular angle, and then the duplicate ad set in the same ABO testing campaign would include a different ad creative. It would be ad creative B or ad creative number 2. And then you would do this duplication of ad sets with identical targeting settings and identical everything except for the creative as many times as there are new ad creatives that you would like to test. Say you have just produced, or your team has just produced 5 or 6 new ad creatives you would like to test. So in that ABO testing campaign, you would have 5 or 6 duplicate ad sets, all of which have Same everything inside the ad, single ad in each ad set, but a different creative inside each of them. So this way, we are only focused on testing one variable, keeping everything else constant, and that one variable is the ad creative. So what happens afterwards, once you run the test, as we already discussed, spending up until the target cost per purchase or up to 1.5x the target cost per purchase, and you either start seeing conversions or not seeing the conversions, you then make the decisions around which ads need to be scaled, which ads can be considered winning ads, and then which ads need to be retired or fully turned off, killed, whatever you want to call it. Again, the ads that have produced 2 or more conversions within the target cost per purchase can be considered winning ads, which should be scaled up in the CBO campaign, which we will look at in a second. And any ad that has not produced results after spending nearly as much or the same amount basically as your proven winning ads should be killed, so you don't waste the budget on those ads. So what happens also when you start scaling the winning ads is you do not kill the winning ads in the ABO testing campaign. Say the ad creative C was our top performing ad. What you will do is you will kill ad creative B, ad creative A, ad creative D, ad creative E, all of them. You would turn them off in the ABO testing campaign, but you will continue to run ad creative C. You would keep the budget the same, actually maybe even increase the budget on this ad set given that you have already proven that the set is working well, or you can continue keeping the same daily budget for a few more days/weeks to just prove that this ad is actually working well. And then if you continue seeing the pattern of strong performance after the initial surge in result, which will show or prove that this ad can actually drive sales, you can then consider increasing the budget by, doubling it, tripling it. I suggest doubling it every week or every 4 to 5 days just to allow Meta to catch up and make sure that you are still maintaining strong efficiency as you start increasing the budget. So aside from increasing the budget on the winning ad, in the ABO testing campaign and retiring all of the losing ads, you will want to take this ad creative C and put it into the CBO scaling campaign. And I just realized it says ad creative B here. Let me just quickly fix it, guys. Once we identify that winning ad, as I already said, ad creative C, what you will end up doing is you will end up creating a separate campaign, which we like to call CBO scaling campaign, where we use campaign budget optimization instead of the ad set budget optimization. We set the budget on the campaign level instead of pre-selecting a specific daily budget for each ad set inside the ABO campaign, which is what we usually do for testing to control the environment. At scale, we don't like to control the environment ourselves manually. We like to let Meta algorithm take over and just let it cook. It knows how to optimize the results much better than you usually. Meta employs a lot of very smart engineers who all get paid a lot of money, and Meta's algorithm is really good at identifying people who are looking for your specific offer, who just need to be presented it at the right time and the right place, which is where your ad creative comes in place when you serve it in the stories, feeds, or reels placements, depending on where Meta thinks it is more likely to convert. We haven't talked about the placements, but I usually do not like to modify the placements. I just always select automatic, and then Meta automatically allocates the majority of the budget towards the top performing channel, which usually for the older demographic is feed placements and stories and reels on the Facebook platform. Boomers like to use Facebook. And then if it's Gen Z product or millennial product, millennial product might be a combination of Facebook and Instagram, with Instagram still being slightly more dominant. And then in case of Gen Z, it will be predominantly, significantly larger budget allocation towards Instagram channel. Facebook will likely be non-existent. A very low budget allocation will be put towards Facebook channel because Gen Zers don't really use Facebook. They use a lot of Instagram, Reels, brain rotting. You guys know it yourselves. So that's where Meta would put the budget by itself. We don't like to control the setting. I just let Meta cook, and usually we see very strong results. Stronger results when we choose auto placements compared to when we try to play around with whether we want to go specifically stories only or specifically reels only, compared to targeting all placements or letting Meta cook. And then every single time I've tested at scale specifically, auto placements outperformed manual placements by a significant margin. CBO scaling campaign. Once you identify the winning ads, what you will want to do is you will want to create a CBO scaling campaign, as I already said, and there you will want to have 3 or 4 different audiences/ad sets. Those 4 different ad sets, in this case, unlike in the ABO testing campaign, will have different audiences One of the audiences will be actually the same audience that we have used in our ABO testing campaign to test the ads. We're talking about this one right there. Actually, sorry, not this one. We're talking about this one right there in the middle, top performing relevant interest stack. We like to use interest stack in the testing campaign that, as already discussed, either the top performing one or a highly relevant interest stack. And then we like to duplicate that same ad set into the scaling campaign, or just use the same audience in the scaling campaign in one of 4 or 3 different ad sets that we are running in that scaling campaign with the CBO campaign budget optimization. The way it's structured usually, it could be one of them another interest stack, slightly different. Say if one of the interest stacks is focused on health and wellness, another interest stack can be focused on nutrition, for example, like vitamin C, vitamin K, magnesium, iron, stuff like that. And then the 2 other audiences will usually be, one of them is broad targeting, so that is no interests, no demographics, no lookalikes. And then another audience will usually be a 1 to 2% lookalike audience that will be based on either your website visitors or past purchasers or email subscribers. Past purchasers usually will be the most relevant lookalike audience that will be the most likely to convert out of all lookalike audiences, because Meta will look for people who are top 2% in the United States who are most similar to your existing customers, or if it's email subscribers, to your existing email subscribers, or to your website visitors. But website visitors, keep in mind, obviously not all of them are converting, so that will not be as profitable or as performing as the lookalike audience that is based off the purchasers. So 3 to 4 audiences in the CBO scaling campaign, where we don't select the budget on the ad set level, but instead select it on the campaign level. So instead of allocating $5 to $10 per day towards each of these audiences, 3 to 4 audiences that we have in the CBO scaling campaign, we're gonna allocate, say, $50 to $100 per day, or whatever your budget is that you're going to be allocating or your client would like to be allocating towards Meta channel on the campaign level. So we're gonna set $100, for example, here, and then this $100 per day will be automatically distributed towards different audiences, or whichever ones Meta deems to be the better performing ones. And usually it's not going to be even. If you set $100 per day budget, almost always be the case where one of the audiences or 2 out of 3 or 4 audiences will spend more than the other 1 or 2 of the audiences, just because Meta will deem that they are better performing ones. So the messaging that we are using in our ads in this campaign or in these audiences will be more relevant to this particular audience groups compared to the other 2 that we are targeting. And what will happen is this winning creative from the ABO testing campaign that we have identified, which is the Ad Creative C, as we already looked at above, this one right there, we will duplicate it into every single ad set or into every single audience. In this case, 3, it can be up to 4 or 5, however many you guys would like to have in your CBO scaling campaign. We like to keep it below 5 different audiences. 3 to 4 is usually the sweet spot, but again, it all depends on your budget. The more budget you have, the more audiences you can have. 4 to 5, the less budget you have, the less audiences you should have, just so you don't distribute yourself too thin. 3 is a perfect sweet spot for anything below $1,000 per day in spend, in my opinion, for a CBO scaling campaign. And then all of your winning ads, in this case, we only have Ad Creative C right now, will be duplicated into each of these ad sets in the CBO scaling campaign. And then as you start running the new creative test, which I guys suggest you do creative testing on an ongoing basis, either every week or every 2 weeks, depending on how many creatives you're producing in one batch and how many you're testing in one batch. If, say, you're testing 5 creatives per round, I suggest you test every week, so you test at least 20 creatives per month, ideally more. If you create 10 creatives in a round and you want to test all 10 of them, then maybe you can run it every week and a half to 2 weeks. It also all depends on the budget that you would like to allocate towards the overall account structure. Again, the higher the budget, the more testing needs to be done and the more frequent testing needs to be. The lower the budget, the less frequent testing can be, just because you have a limited amount of budget that you can allocate towards testing. Which another thing I haven't mentioned, the reasons you want to do so is once you start seeing winning creatives, when you run them in the testing campaign here, ABO testing, you want to, and you scale them in the CBO scaling campaign, you want to reallocate or shift the budget distribution such that the CBO scaling campaign gets around 60 to 70 to 80% of the overall daily budget, and the testing campaign spends anywhere between 20 to 30 to 40% of the daily budget. Obviously, when you're just creating the account, all of the budget will be just testing. But once you identify the first round of winning ads and you start scaling them in the CBO scaling campaign, you will start reallocating the budget such that the CBO scaling campaign predominantly spends the vast majority of the daily budget, and then the testing campaign spends only a fraction of that, because testing campaign doesn't include only the winning ads, it also will include a new round of tests that you will launch after you identify the proven winners from the first round of tests, while the scaling campaign will include only the proven winners. So you want to allocate the majority of the budget towards the proven winners in the scaling campaign, and you want to keep the budget allocation towards testing capped, just so the performance starts trending up in the first months. Because if you're not going to start distributing more budget towards scaling, then your performance will likely be still somewhat subpar even once you start identifying the winners. You need to start pushing more budget towards proven concepts, and then reducing the budget you're allocating towards testing, but still continuing to test on an ongoing basis, so you could continue identifying winning ads and then scaling them in the CBO scaling campaign. And then as you do that, as you start finding more winning ads in the future rounds of creative testing, what you will want to do is you will want to continue running them in the ABO testing campaign at either the same budget or slightly higher budget. Once you start increasing it in the ABO testing campaign and those proven ads, killing the losers that have not proven to drive any results, and then scaling the new winning ads into the CBO scaling campaign, adding them to other proven winning ads from the previous rounds of testing. And then this ongoing flywheel machine of continuous testing in the ABO testing campaign, and then scaling of proven winners in the CBO scaling campaign, and continuing to run proven winners still in the ABO testing campaign with slightly higher budget, will allow you to start driving results much sooner and continue driving them at scale, whether you're spending $500 per day, $5,000 per day, or $50,000 per day. Regardless if you're using the cost cap, you're using the lowest cost, it doesn't matter. Lowest cost, by the way, I haven't said it, but always using the lowest cost for ABO testing and also for the CBO scaling campaign that we are setting up originally in the very first place. And then sometimes, depending on how much budget we have to play around with and how strong the results are that we see with the original lowest cost campaign setup, we can consider duplicating that campaign and keep everything the same audiences, same top performing ads, duplicate our CBO scaling campaign, and then switch the bidding strategy from lowest cost to cost cap, which would be usually 1x to 1.2 to 1.5x of the target cost per purchase. If it doesn't spend at 1x target cost per purchase for your cost cap, consider bumping it up to 1.5x. Once the campaign starts spending, you can gradually start reducing the cost cap by a couple of dollars every few days, until the campaign starts spending less and until you start seeing the drop off in performance. And then if you observe this, try to increase the cost cap back up, and you will be able to find that kind of sweet spot where you need to maintain a cost cap for consistent results and continuous spend on this campaign. I think this video went out to be a little bit longer than I wanted to, but this is the overall campaign structure that we use in majority of our accounts for pretty much all of our clients in the agency, whether it be the e-commerce accounts or the retail accounts for the dispensaries that we're advertising for. And this has proven to be working really well over time for the last 2+ years, and still in the post-Andromeda environment, this campaign structure bangs, I would say, even harder than it used to before, because everybody liked to have this nerd out. Everybody used to nerd out about the having very advanced account structure, and right now what works best is that simplistic structure, because the only thing that matters in the Andromeda environment is the creative and the customer journey, which is a landing page, which is where you need to put majority of your energy and efforts for your own brand or for your clients if you're running an agency. And then the campaign structure is there just to provide that testing environment and then scaling environment, minimizing the decision fatigue for yourself and your own team and your team of media buyers if they're the ones who are doing it for you. But again, if you want something simple that is proven to work in the past and still works to this day very efficiently at different levels of scale, this campaign structure will do you a good job for sure. I mean, it hasn't failed for me yet, and we continue seeing very strong results for every single client of ours with this particular structure. Again, ABO testing campaign first, ongoing testing every 1 to 2 weeks, if not more often, depending on how much budget you have to play with. And then ongoing scaling of proven winning ads in the CBO scaling campaign, and then continuous future launches of new creative tests and continuous future scaling of proven winners in the scaling campaign. That's all. If you guys liked that video, please put that like button, subscribe for future episodes, and let me know how I can improve in these types of videos. That's my first time doing this format. I really think I can do better, but yeah, I wanted to prepare the fig jam before instead of creating it together with you guys, so it made it easier for me to explain to you the overall concept. Maybe in the future I will do it such where we're creating it together, but yeah, for this one I just did it ahead of time in advance, and then yeah, that's about it.